change my voice again. I'm not a racist. The word racist and rapist are connected, and I find both ideas disgusting. You know, someone like me, if given my rightful place, all single women would love to date me, and I would be a one-woman man. Okay, so I think that that perhaps makes it more repugnant to me than everybody else, because a lot of rapists, right? They don't like each other. Where I'm not a rapist, and I um, I hate rapists more than other rapists. They see it as like a competition. It's like two demons competing for a girl, and one of them's mad, the other one sexually abused her first. And you say, well, how do they get to that? How do they get to this state? It's not as simple as this is one mistake Christianity makes, right? It's not as simple as a demon comes out of nowhere and possesses them. That's simply not the case. Evil people are formed by cultivating evil first and foremost, right? If they come from a pirate culture, a Roman culture, what ends up happening is that patriarchal line, right? That's why it's a phallic symbol. It represents the rape energy of the ideas that they refer to. So we see Ovid's metamorphoses, right? It's like a transformation, right? A metamorphosis, a change, okay, where they're turning into the idea. The idea didn't come out of nowhere. The idea came from cultures and cults and groups and corporations and governments and what have you, social clubs, gentlemen's clubs, so-called secret societies. And these ideas are like, it comes into you like a mist, so to speak, a spiritual mist from your surroundings, right? It's part of why there's called the mystery school, because there was Eri, who was Haro Aries, the guy who comes down from heaven, okay? And I'm slaughtering a little bit. I'm not, I've never been to Africa. I don't speak any African language to any significant degree, okay? But it's this idea that comes down from heaven, from God's Son through martial arts, where it comes into, it's drawn in. The beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God. The Word was the Spirit that was drawn from God. But God is the source from it. Again, I explain it like, the sun and its rays, right? The plants absorbing the sun rays. The nature is showing us that this is the true way to interpret it, okay? That the Spirit is like the sun. And we hear that sun is, they say it's an energy, the sunlight, right? It's particles, right? It's a wave and particles and so on and so forth. But it's not that simple either, right? The sun, in a sense, has a spirit, but that's not quite the Spirit of God. It's made by God. The Spirit of God is like the essence. You can eat food to help you get into the Spirit, right? Eat healthy food, do martial arts, right? Focus your mind, body, soul, and spirit that way, which is the most potent way. And God gave it to us in this world, which is like, it's like a jungle gym, an obstacle course, a training facility. Okay, that's why it said Nimrod was a mighty hunter and a warrior before the Lord. So this metamorphosis, right, has to do with these ideas. And I suggest you watch this video several times, take notes, right? It's kind of complex. I'm trying to keep it simple here. It's something I visualize and see happen more than I consciously put into words. So I spend a lot of time trying to articulate it, and they fume and poison me, trying to get me to babble on. And so they can say that I'm crazy and I'm talking mad and try to take me to the psych ward, where Psyche is a deity that's put in a trance to be sexually abused by Pan, whose name means all for all the Greco-Roman deities, especially Eros, who's usually seen as her consort, her mate, who's where we get the word erotic desire, and Eros scrambled is rose. And rose was a symbol, I believe, of secret society sexual manipulation, and especially the sexual activities that result. And it over time became associated with Lupercalia, which was a wolf day, where you get the word, where you get the Valentine's Day from the Roman Catholic Church, and it was a Roman Lupercalia festival and event, and the occult processes that accompanied that event. Okay, so again, the wolf was a symbol of the Roman people because Romulus and Remus were reared by wolves, and Romulus killed Remus, and that's why he's named Rome is named after Romulus and not both or Remus. So they're transforming into this kind of ruthless, rapacious, ravenous wolves who put on these sheep's clothes and act harmless. Like you might, for whatever reason, I'll use Freemasons as an example. Use teachers at school. It's everybody outside the martial art order, because Set, who is probably the most important form, other than when it comes to understanding, it's Zeus, because it's put simple in a way that's more similar to your cultures. But Set really covers who Zeus is, right? It's this jackal, this dog, this wolf. That's why, you know, the word God is dog scrambled, because they're Satanists, right? And they worship Set, who's often referred to as a black dog. The Greeks and the Romans saw him as a black dog, and they didn't quite understand that it was a amalgamation of a jackal. And of course, Hades and his three dogs. And of course, the three-headed dog, Cerberus, who's said to guard the way into the underworld in a Greek mythology. Okay, so it's this transformation. Now, do I claim to be an expert on Greek mythology in every aspect? No, no. That's not what I'm about. I don't know the devil's so-called deep secrets. I know enough to get the idea of what's going on. As a result of my studies, this wasn't the main focus of my studies. I was focusing on being moral and just, and trying to restore God's moral, martial, spiritual, romantic martial art order of wisdom and justice and truth and righteousness. It was not the Greco-Roman mythology and mystery systems that the West has embraced, because the Romans occupied, England and Northern Europe, and they influenced France and England and so on and so forth, and Germany as a result. And that's where we get, these World War I, World War II, and before that, colonialism that spread across the world. And in the Roman tradition of treachery, the so-called national independence festivals that occur. That's why you Cinco de Mayo. Africans have their independence and days, and it's all a fraud, because what happened was what is called the comprador elite, these international token minorities, if you will, these people who, more often than not, from what I gather, are from the patriarchal lines of Rome, and they're in their clubs certainly, and in their corporate groups. They they control these nations by proxy. And a lot of white supremacists in their ignorance, and everyone sees through it, like to say, well, why can't these countries like Mexico and Africa and the African countries and wherever else, Puerto Rico, why can't they, well, Puerto Rico is really, part of the American system. That's a story for another day. So we'll say, Thailand or whatever, the Philippines, why don't they govern themselves so well? Okay, why doesn't Nigeria or Ethiopia? Well, because they're proxy nations. They're the international token minorities, and the corporations run them, not the indigenous people there, and certainly not the ones who are from, indigenous patriarchal lines. Now, I don't care what patriarchal line you're from. The flesh means nothing, right? It's the content of the character. But that's part of what goes into who you are and what blessings you have and don't have. It's very much related to this. But at the end of the day, life is short. You could die any time. Okay, and everyone's not supposed to reproduce anyway, because there's no moral path in the future. So, and again, a lot of you might be worried about this. Listen carefully, those of you who think that you don't want this to get out. There's 55 million millionaires and billionaires in the world. 22.5 million of them are here in America. Okay, there's countless hundreds of thousands, 100,000 you add them to, you probably get around 200 million people. 2,000 years ago, there probably wasn't even 200 million people on the planet. I'm sure there wasn't. Okay, just 2,000 years ago, the population exploded as technology helped people survive, and there was a lower mortality rate, and so on and so forth. People lived longer, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the population exploded. Before you know, it was 1 billion, 2 billion, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 2,000 years ago, there wasn't that many people. So why would you care, if there's people who are poor? You're not important anyway. There's 200 million of you rich people in the world. Okay, and then you have family members and heirs and so on and so forth. Why would you think that you're actually important? All you have is money. You're just another rich person. That's like a homeless person saying, there's only 600,000 of them, so he's important. Okay? But, there's 22.5 million, millionaires and billionaires. I mean, look at the celebrities. There's tons of them, It comes a point when it doesn't mean you're important. And we have to look at it first and foremost in terms of the actual content of the character. The people think rich people have good character? No. They think that they're ideal and deserving? No. So you're not doing anything anyway. You just have money, and you've sold your souls for money. So you shouldn't be worried about people looking up to me and so on and so forth, because they don't look up to you and you're not doing anything.